Mozi book. The Mozi Chinese, Mozi, also called the Mojing Chinese, Mojing or the Mohist canon, is an ancient Chinese text from the Warring States period 476–221 BC that expounds the philosophy of Mohism. It propounds such Mohist ideas as impartiality, meritocratic governance, economic growth and aversion to ostentation, and is known for its plain and simple language. The chapters of the Mozi can be divided into several categories: a core group of 31 chapters, which contain the basic philosophic ideas of the Mohist school, several chapters on logic, which are among the most important early Chinese texts on logic and are traditionally known as the Dialectical Chapters, 5 sections containing stories and information about Mozi and his followers. There are also 2 other minor sections, an initial group of 7 chapters that are clearly of a much later date, and 2 anti-Confucian chapters, only one of which has survived. The Mohist philosophical school died out in the 3rd century BC, and copies of the Mozi were not well preserved. The modern text has been described as notoriously corrupt. Of its 71 original chapters, 18 have been lost and several others are badly fragmented. Authorship. The Mozi, as well as the entire philosophical school of Mohism, is named for and traditionally ascribed to Mo Dai, or Master Mo Chinese Mozi Mozai, a figure of the 5th century BC about whom nothing is reliably known. Most sources describe Mozi as being from the state of Lu, though one says that he was from the state of Song. Mozi seems to have come from a humble family, and some elements of the book suggest that he may have been some type of artisan or craftsman, such as a carpenter. Some scholars have theorized that the name Momo, which means ink, may not truly be a surname, but could be indicative of him having undergone the branding or tattooing that was used in ancient China as a form of criminal punishment. Content. The Mozi originally comprised 71 chapters, but 18 of its chapters have been lost and several others are damaged and fragmented. The text can be divided into a total of 6 sections. Chapters 1–7, a group of miscellaneous essays and dialogues that were clearly added at a later date and are somewhat incongruous with the rest of the book. Chapters 8–37, a large group of chapters of which 7 are missing and 3 are fragmentary that form the core Mozi chapters, and elucidate the 10 main philosophical doctrines of the Mohist school of thought. Mozi is frequently referenced and cited in these chapters. Chapters 38–39, 2 chapters of which only chapter 39 survives, entitled Against Confucianism Feiru, containing polemical arguments against the ideals of Confucianism. These chapters are sometimes grouped with chapters 8–37. Chapters 40–45, a group of 6 chapters often called the Dialectical Chapters, which are some of the most unique writings of ancient China, treating topics in logic, epistemology, ethics, geometry, optics, and mechanics. These chapters are dense and difficult, largely because the text is badly garbled and corrupted. Chapters 46–51, 6 chapters of which chapter 51, including even its title, has been lost, that contain stories and dialogues about Mozi and his followers. These chapters are probably of somewhat later date and are probably partly fictional. Chapters 50–71, a group of chapters 9 of which have been lost, known as the military chapters, containing instructions on defensive warfare, supposedly from Mozi to his chief disciple Qin Gili. These chapters are badly damaged and corrupted. Selected translations. The damaged nature of the later chapters of the Mozi have made its translations highly difficult and often requires translators to repair and re-edit the text before translating. The first Mozi translation in a Western language, the 1922 German translation of Alfred Fork, was done before these problems were well understood, and thus contains a large number of errors in the dialectical and military chapters. Only in the late 20th century did accurate translations of the later Mozi chapters appear. In German, Alfred Fork 1922, Mitai, Des Sozialethikers und seiner Schüler Philosophist Work, Berlin, Commissions Verlag des Vereinigungswissenschaftlicher Verleger. Y.P. May 1929. The Ethical and Political Works of Mozi, London, Probstein. Reprinted 1974, Taipei C.H. Nguyen. Burton Watson 1963, Motsu, Basic Writings, New York, Columbia University Press. A.C. Graham 1978, later Mohist Logic, Ethics, and Science, Hong Kong, Chinese University Press. Ian Johnston 2010, The Mozi, A Complete Translation, Hong Kong, Chinese University Press. Chris Fraser 2020, The Essential Mozi, Ethical, Political, and Dialectical Writings, New York, Oxford University Press. Many Mozi translations into modern Chinese and Japanese exist.